Welcome into the official New York Jets podcast. Eric Allen here at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Joined by the New York Post's Brian Costello, who's given us a few moments of our time. It's Thursday of his time. It's Thursday right now. You're going to be catching a plane out later this afternoon. I think most of you are going to be hearing this or watching this on Friday. And in fact, in a few moments, you are going to the podium to listen to Georgia tight end Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
What do you think the chances are for the Jets at 10?
I think it's slim, EA. I think they're going to take a tackle, right?
Yep.
Like everybody does. I'm not, going out on a limb there. But let's say those tackles are gone, the top three guys. Then Bowers is attractive because you need, we talk about receiver a lot with the Jets, but you really just need another weapon on this offense to go with Garrett and Brees. And this guy's a weapon. So I don't know if Jets fans will be happy.
Really?
Well, There's some scars, EA, from Kyle Brady that still exist. I know,
You're
like
going back.
It's 30 years ago, but I whenever I bring up a tight end, I hear about Kyle Brady. So, but I still think it's going to be a tackle. But I think if they don't go tackle, Bowers is definitely a shot there.
He's a very interesting prospect. I know I've asked a few people if they consider him a unicorn, and they mentioned the size, not the biggest guy in the world, but awfully productive on an offense that is going to send a few guys to the National Football League. With that being said, how would you rate Bowers against those top three receivers? Because you said, hey, offensively, playmakers, doesn't matter about the position.
Yeah, I mean, I think the receivers are higher. Like, you look at what has happened at the wide receiver position in recent years, that's become now an elite position. Like, it used to be quarterback, left tackle, cornerback, and edge rusher, right? Those were the four. Receivers joined that mix. Like, look at the money they're making, and Justin Jefferson is going to reset the market probably soon. And in the draft, I think those guys are now top guys.
Right.
And tight ends, you can see you can get them in the second round, you can get them in the third round, and they're productive. So I do think those receivers are definitely going to be higher than Bowers.
We got a couple months into the draft. Is it your sense right here that there are clear top two at the tackle position in pecking order with Joe Alt and Fashanu from your alma mater, Penn State?
Alma mater, yeah. I think Fuaga is there right there too from Oregon State, and so I think it's the top three. Like, during the season, you heard a lot about Alt and Fashanu, but I think Fuaga has kind of joined that mix after the Senior Bowl. So to me, I think it's the top three, and then there's a drop-off after that. So we'll see how many go in the top 10. I think there should be one there for the Jets, because I think those receivers we talked about, quarterbacks obviously, are going to go a lot. So there should be somebody there at 10 for the Jets.
All right, we're going to get back to the draft, but as far as the recent release of Laken Tomlinson, any surprise there considering his cap number?
I thought they would try to get him to take a pay cut. Maybe they did. I don't know. And then they moved on because it didn't make sense to have him at that number. Like, his production didn't match the price, but you're creating a hole. And they already had holes to fill in the offensive line, and now they have three holes. So that part of it, and he was a durable guy, which is what we talked about. That's been a problem for them, for the last couple of years. But I wasn't shocked.
Okay.
I thought there was a good chance he would get cut.
13 different starting combinations up front last season, and he's the guy who played every snap, Laken Tomlinson. Jets want to find a permanent home for Elijah Vera Tucker. Where do you think ultimately that could be?
I think it'll end up being tackle, but I think the market is going to influence it. And I think what, you heard Joe Douglas yesterday talk about his versatility and how that helps them. To me, right, you need three players. It's either two guards and a tackle or two tackles and a guard. And that's where Vera Tucker comes in. If they look at free agency, and I think they will look at it like this, the tackle market's soft, right? Like, there's a lot of older guys, a lot of guys that have durability questions. That's not what the Jets need right now. The guard markets, there's some value. And we know, Douglas likes to search for value. So I think they end up signing two guards. Then you kick AVT out to tackle, and you draft a tackle. But if something changes and there's a tackle that they really like, maybe they sign him, and then they just sign a guard and keep AVT at guard. But they're locked in. They want to. I don't really understand the whole. They think the injuries are coming because he's moving around. I don't get that too much, but you do need to find him a home. I think it's been tough for him to keep moving around every year.
He's a unique dude because most guys in today's landscape are not going to say, hey, listen, just play me wherever you want.
Yeah, they say play me at left tackle so I
Right.
get paid. Yeah, no, he's definitely a team first guy and has been, and but to me, tackle is the more important position, right? Like if you go back and you look at every game the Jets played, it felt like almost every week there was an edge rusher we were talking about.
Yep.
It's like it's always a storyline for me is like, oh, they're playing Myles Garrett this week. Let's go talk to the tackles about what it's like to play Myles Garrett. So there are some great interior rushers, like Chris Jones and other guys. But to me, the tackle is so important, and AVT has shown he can play there.
If you're the Jets, who are you targeting in free agency, though, at that position?
At that position, I'm not really sure who they're targeting. I think, like I said, I think the guard market is where you go. Maybe like a Robert Hunt from Miami,
Okay.
and Onwenu from New England, who's
Right.
got flexibility,
Right.
can play both. I think Joe's going to be searching for value. If you look at the recent history, he hasn't done well when he's gone the big money first day free agent, right? What he's done well on is that second wave, and like DJ Reed, right? That's his
Yes.
best signing by far in my book. That came, that wasn't a big splash on day one. That was after Tyler Conklin. I think was a really good signing, and that came after they signed Uzama, right? So like that came second wave. So to me, I could see him going, looking at the guard market, watching what happens day one, and then pouncing, on somebody after that in the guard market.
But that's why I think Bowers would be a luxury for the Jets, because you mentioned Conklin coming off a career high receptions.
too,
I think
though.
it was 60+
Yeah.
last year. And then Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing the ball.
Right. I think you can use two, though,
Okay.
right? And I think
What do you think of Rucker?
I think the jury's still out on him as a receiver. I thought he had some good moments last year. I think he's a good blocker.
Right.
But to me, Bowers is a dynamic guy. Like he's almost like another receiver, which we've seen now with Kelsey. It's like adding a receiver when you have that guy out there. So, I hear what you're saying, and I think Conklin has done very well, but I don't know how long Conklin's going to be on the team, too, right? He's an older guy, contract stuff. So if you get a really young player that you draft at that position, it could be valuable.
I think it's a leap year. It's still February, right?
Yeah,
Today,
today's
February
February
29th.
29th, yeah.
So there you go. So this is a difficult question at this point, but do you think the Jets would be more likely to move up in the draft or move back?
Yeah, it's tough on February 29th.
I
But
know.
I think move up, EA. Because
Really?
I think of where they're at. This is win or go home for Joe Douglas and
Yeah.
Robert Saleh, right? I mean, Woody Johnson made that clear on NFL Honors that they have to win this year. So to me, it's like if there's a tackle that they love more than the other guys,
Right.
and they're not willing to let whoever follow them, go up, like move up to 7, move up and
Interesting.
get them, right? And so moving back, I think the only chance of moving back is if the 3 guys are gone, and then they don't want they don't want to take Bowers. They say, all right, let's just trade back and get some picks. But I don't think they're worried about not having a second round pick. To me, they have a pretty good pick in the 3rd round. I think they feel good that they can get 2 starters out of this draft with where they're at. So I don't think that it's moving back is going to be a priority, and we've never seen Joe do it in the 1st round, right? He's never moved back in the 1st round.
Yeah.
He's moved up. He got for AVT. He moved up for Jermaine Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I had to bet, I'd say moving up.
He was here yesterday after he spoke at the podium, and he told us that he's anticipating in the range of 3 compensatory selections, but probably all those in the 7th round.
Yes. Yeah. I think the guys that do those projections online,
Yeah.
I've seen. Yeah, it's 7th round. I think they might even end up with Mr. Irrelevant.
How
I think
about-
it's the projection? They might end up with the last pick of the draft.
How about that? Maybe the next Brock Purdy. Hey, so let me ask you
There you
about
go.
with that.
There you go.
When we talk about somebody like Purdy, Aaron Rodgers, we've talked about his age. We know he's coming off the injury. The Jets are going to be in the backup quarterback market.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. Would you draft someone at some point as far as a passer is concerned?
Only late, day 3,
Yeah.
I might draft, or undrafted free agency would be a priority, and as a developmental 3rd guy. And then I think next year, EA, we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about quarterbacks.
You do.
Even if I think Aaron will still be playing.
Yeah.
But I think that's when the Jets will go, maybe we need to draft someone that can develop high, that can develop behind Aaron and watch him. So this year, I think it would be a developmental guy, end of the draft or a non-drafted free agency.
What a difference a year makes, though, right? Well, when we were here in Indianapolis last year, we're talking about the quarterback hunt being on for the Jets. Derek Carr had just been released by the Raiders.
I stalked Derek Carr out at a hotel in Indianapolis last year.
Tell us a story. Let's go.
Someone called me and said Derek Carr was over at the Marriott here, and that was the Jets had met with him in Jersey in February, and they were meeting with him here the next day. So I just went over, and he was with some friends, and I just waited him out. And then when he went to the elevator bank, I ran over and introduced myself, and he was very polite. Said he wasn't talking, but he was nice. And then I did hear from people inside the Jets at their meeting the next day. He said, "Oh yeah, one of your reporters got me at my hotel elevator," and I said, "Yeah, welcome to New York, Derek. That's what it's like."
There you go. At that point, I think Goody was talking at the podium one of those days. Packers GM, Brian Gutekunst, of course. Did you think that it was ultimately going to be Rodgers?
I'm trying to remember what I
he
thought.
Still was on.
Because that was before the flight and all that stuff.
Yeah, he was still under contract, and there seemed to be a lot of uncertainty.
It felt like there was a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like from a beat writer perspective, right?
Yeah.
When you throw something, like when you start like throwing speculation out about something like that, if it isn't going to happen, you get some pretty big pushback from the organization. Like they'll tell you, they'll be like, "You're completely off on this." Yeah. And there was no pushback I remember writing about Rodgers right after the season. I did a series like, what could they do at quarterback? And one piece was Rodgers. And I expected them to be like, just down, even if they were going to do like downplaying it, and there was no downplaying from the people I talked to. And I'm like, oh, they're going to go for this. And so, I didn't know how it was going to play out at that point. I think we had a lot of questions still then, but I did definitely think he was the number one guy.
What did you think of the messages coming from Joe Douglas speaking at the podium here yesterday?
Well, I think there was a lot of different ones.
Yeah.
I think he's not shying away from what this year is. They need to win.
Yep.
I think Joe's done a lot of good things, right? But they haven't won games. And I think Joe and Robert, they both have, there's promise there. And I think they both have shown, that they can do the job. But you got to win games in this league. It doesn't matter what the process looks like. It is the results. Right. Coaches love to talk about process, and GMs love to talk about process, but it's about results. So he didn't shy away from that. Said they have to win. And then I think he hit on a lot of different other topics. But that was my big takeaway. Was kind of he knows what this year is for him.
He seemed comfortable though.
Yeah, Joe never seems uncomfortable. A guy I've never. He's a confident guy. I don't think he worries about what's said about him or written about him. I think he knows he's got to get this done.
Zach Wilson given permission to seek a trade. What ultimately could that market look like? What seriously, what could he get in return for a guy who was a former number 2 overall pick?
I don't think much, EA.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be nice here.
Yeah.
And not I don't think they'll get much.
A late round pick is on the table.
Maybe.
Yeah.
People talk about Trey Lance, right?
Yeah.
Trey Lance was drafted 1 pick after. I saw somebody saying this yesterday. So they got a 5th round pick, right? Mm-hmm. But Trey Lance never played. So there was the unknown, right? We all know what the unknown is. Like that's why the backup quarterback is usually the most popular guy, right? Because you don't know what he is.
Right.
We know what Zach Wilson is. He's played 3 years, and it hasn't been good. I think they're going to have a hard time. I think maybe they get a pick in 2025 for him.
Okay.
I can see that.
That's fair.
But I think it'll probably happen right around the draft. I think that's when. I don't think this is going to happen soon.
But it will happen.
If it happens, they could end up cutting him. I'm not 100% sold that they'll be able to get something for him because it's just, it was bad on the field. It was bad off the field. That's not a good combination. So I don't know. And I go through, right, almost everyone gets a second chance in the NFL.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I think if I go through Jets draft picks and think about guys that didn't work out, first-round picks, the only guy who never really ended up at a second place was D. Milner. And I don't know why, but he never got a second chance. Everyone else got a second chance. So I think Zach will get it, but I think teams know the Jets are going to cut him at some point. So I'm not sure what they're going to give up for him.
What would your wish list be if you're Joe and you're seeking a veteran backup quarterback?
I like Jacoby Brissett a lot.
Yeah. He looked good at MetLife last year.
And he looked good against them in Cleveland 2 years ago.
He certainly did.
Yeah, so he's played well against them, which I don't know what that's worth, but I think he's a good backup.
Is there a price point you got to look at?
Well, I think the price point's going up.
Yeah.
Right? I think he got $8 million last year, and he was the top of the market. I got a feeling it's going to be $10 million this year, and I think they'll have to pay up, just because not just you look at the Jets, but also look what happened across the NFL.
Right.
Backup quarterbacks are now more valuable than ever. I love Minshew, but I think Minshew will probably get an opportunity somewhere to at least be a bridge quarterback of a team and drafting a rookie.
Makes sense.
Tannehill, you have to look at Tannehill because of all the Tennessee connections, right? Todd Downing and Keith Carter and everybody, now Tony Dews, like all these guys came from. But I also think Tannehill might be in that market of like, is somebody looking for a starter for a year, or somebody drafting a quarterback and wants a veteran? I think he might be that. So to me, Brissett is the guy I'm really watching. Tyrod Taylor, I think too.
Huh,
the Giants, I think I'd watch him.
Cross down.
Yeah, I think he's good. He has a tough time staying healthy, but he's pretty good.
So I told fans you were going to be here on the podcast, so I got to fire off a couple of questions
here. Are they
here.
nice?
So far, they look pretty good.
I
don't have too much editing control here on my settings. Michael Christopher asks Brian Costello, will the Jets put more value on Olu and Alt because they are really the only true left tackles in the draft compared to the right tackles of Fuaga and Guyton and Latham. And then also he throws in there, is Mike Williams a consideration for signing if he gets cut by the Chargers to be number 2 wide receiver this year? Let's start with the tackles.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a question. I don't know. I don't know if they view Fuaga as he could play left tackle.
Right.
I do think you can move guys from right to left tackle. That was the question, right, with Wirfs in 2020 was, he's a right tackle. Well, look at how he's done. He's done pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I think I don't think they can worry about that. I think they need to take the best player and then figure it out when they get them in. And they can, again, AVT's versatility helps there. I think AVT can play left tackle if they needed to. And then Mike Williams, I mean, I think they would definitely have interest if he comes available.
Adam B., what's a position the Jets will target this offseason that isn't getting much attention from fans? I like this question.
Yeah, I would go interior defensive line.
Yeah.
Right? Because they have Quinnen, and then they really don't have much else under contract. So
Quentin Jefferson up.
Yep, Saleh.
Woods up.
Solomon Thomas.
Yep.
So I think they probably look to bring Jefferson and Thomas back, but they could go a different direction, and that to me that's going to be critical. If you had a criticism of the Jets' defense, it's been against the run, and so that's right up the middle. They need to get that shored up, and I think that's going to be a position. And the second one, I go with safety, right? Like Jordan Whitehead's up. What do they do there?
Ashton Davis, Chuck Clark as well.
Yep. So, I think those are the two positions to watch that aren't getting a lot of attention right now.
Safety, maybe take a flyer on day 3 of the draft, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, again, and that's also, that would be a guy who plays special teams, you'd assume, right?
Yeah.
A safety on day 3,
exactly.
right? That's because you have to consider that as well when you're looking at it.
Davis finding the football at
Yeah,
unprecedented levels
he's
last
an
year.
interesting guy, right? So, like, you know who he reminds me of, is Eric Smith.
Okay.
Remember Eric Smith, right?
Smith.
Great special teams player.
Yeah.
Great. And then, like, he would have, like, he'd play a little defense, and he'd play pretty well. But then, like, when they tried to make him the guy, it didn't go so well. So I'm wondering, like, I remember Mike Pettin told me about Eric Smith one time. He's like, you love him at 300 snaps, not so much at 1,000. So Ashton, I don't know, like, can he be a 1,000 snap guy? I'm not sure. I think they'd be reluctant to do that.
So we got a couple minutes with you. Bryce Huff.
Yeah.
The cap going up in the National Football League, I think, to a number that I don't know if a lot of people anticipated is going to be quite that high.
Nobody anticipated it.
So how does that impact the Jets?
Well, it helps, right? I mean, I think it definitely helps. I think that was the first thing I heard was from people that, like, they thought, maybe this changes things with Huff.
Yeah.
Maybe they can go a little bit higher. I just don't think anyone knows what the market is for Bryce Huff. And I think the Jets might have to let him explore it because maybe it's not going to be as high as he and his agent think. So I wouldn't be shocked, if he hits free agency,
right, goes
out, sees what he can get, and the Jets have to hope he comes back to them and says, you know what, this is what so-and-so offered. Are you going to meet it? So I think that's the big thing is the market. And then is he content being part of a rotation?
Yeah.
Or does he feel like he wants to play on first and second down more? And will some team tell him he's going to do that? That's also a factor in this.
What do you make of Rodgers before he gets back here in April And I would expect he's going to be around the team quite a bit. I really think he embraced the area and the organization quite a bit. Just what he's facing ahead, being where he's at this point of his career, where I think all of a sudden, after last year, all this hype around the team and the organization, now I think people are forgetting how good he has been in the past, or maybe they're counting him out and they just don't believe that a 40-year-old who's going to be 41 can climb this mountain again.
Yeah, I take doubt at your own risk, right? I mean, the guy's an NFL legend for a reason. Is he going to be what he was in 2020? I don't know. I don't know if he can duplicate that. But even a little bit diminished Aaron Rodgers is still better than anything the Jets have had in years and years and years. So I just saw Connor, my former colleague, he has a book coming out on Aaron. And he tweeted yesterday, he spent some time with Aaron in California recently, and he said Aaron's bigger. He bulked up. So he added some size. And I think this guy is going to be on a mission, right? Like, he hears all the stuff that you just talked about, and I think he's probably a little taken aback right now because last year he came in and it was a love fest. Yeah. And it's not always like that around the Jets. No. Yeah, you might know on Twitter and such, and so now the team's getting a little, there's a lot of doubters, a lot of criticism. I think he's going to be fired up, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't have a really good season.
If Aaron Rodgers has a really good season, Jets are a playoff team. Yeah,
I mean the key to Aaron Rodgers having a really good season, right, is keeping him upright. And that's what we talked about with this offense. That's how we're talking about this offensive line. They got to keep him upright, and they got to keep him playing, and give him some more help on offense.
Will the Jets be in the market for a free agent receiver?
Yes. Yeah, I think they have to be.
We were talking about it before we came on.
Yeah, the receiver market's tough because so many guys get tagged, and we just heard Chris Ballard said yesterday Pittman's going to be tagged, or I think he said he will use it as a tool, but it didn't sound like Pittman's going anywhere. I do think the Bucs are going to re-sign Mike Evans. So he's going to be off the market. So Calvin Ridley's the guy to me that's going to be the top of the market, and we'll see. I think the Jets will be interested.
All right, so you got to go to Bauer's podium, and then you are going to catch a flight. Great stuff. Anything to add on Hardman or Deion Dawkins this week?
It's just amazing.
I didn't have any of this stuff on my bingo card before the offseason commenced.
I mean, look, I just say with McCole Hardman, take some of this with a grain of salt. The guy got traded. I think Thomas Morstead said it pretty well, right? Xavier, he got beat up by Xavier Gibson. That's pretty tough to take. He didn't do anything with the team, really. So, he's an unhappy guy with the team. So I don't go crazy with that. Deion Dawkins, I can't wait to see the Buffalo game. Yeah. I think it's going to be chippy. Yeah, I think, I understand his beef with Clemens. I get it. Clemens, I think Clemens, I have some issues with the way Clemens kind of carries himself and stuff. So I think I get that. I didn't understand kind of making it all about.
Seemed like he took on the entire organization.
Yeah, well, and also saying their, what do you say, Instagram, their Instagram, and then he was sitting with his shirt off doing a podcast. It's kind of okay, it was an interesting take, but the game's gonna be fun. It adds a layer, which is great for me. The first thing I thought was, oh boy, that's gonna be a fun week, writing about that, because some of the guys went back at him on Twitter and stuff. So it's gonna be interesting, but. It's amazing. The Jets, they're always in the middle of everything,
Guys, enjoyed it. Thanks, buddy.
All right, thank you.